The source archetype is closely connected with the process of psychological recovery and renewal. The archetype is so universal that everyone has access to it, but the power of it reveals itself only in special circumstances. You can be in the wilderness, in a beautiful and inspiring place, especially if there are no people around, and experience a feeling of immense peace, a sense of importance of the moment, and connection to something greater than yourself, something that is even hard to describe. You can go to a church or other religious place and feel something similar as well. This kind of experience is very important for everyone. This is why, in the past, religious rituals or collective activities within a group and magical rituals among tribes have always played such a big role. The purpose of all these activities was to give the opportunity to connect to strong archetypes, and the main one is the source. Its energy can be used to gain inner psychological integrity, both for the person and the entire group. But what is this mysterious source? The source archetype is one of the most ancient and has a deep connection to two things. The first one is the creation myths of various peoples, which have existed since the Stone Age. The second is the process of the individual development of the human mind, beginning in infancy. Both of these things are closely related to each other, and both are reflected in our daily lives. Our perception of the world, whether it is good or bad, whether it is hostile or friendly, is ingrained in us unconsciously from an early age. We have a deep-seated sense of beginning, of the moment when our life began, when we became aware of ourselves and our first memories began to form. This sense is very vague and abstract because it carries a deeper signal from a time when we remembered nothing but already perceived the world. Perhaps we are talking about moments from our infant or even prenatal life. The feeling we are talking about also manifests itself in unconscious symbols that appear to us in our dreams or imagination, or that arise in myths of different peoples. These are myths about the creation of the world, about the demiurge, the gods, the spirits of the divine couple that create a world that was originally perfect, empty, or, on the contrary, in a state of crisis. To understand even better the nature of the source, let's go deeper into the psychology of a child and the way he perceives the world. A little child has no knowledge of the world. He's experimenting with it, tasting it. The child's mind doesn't see a chair or a book or any other thing as a concept. He sees just some strange object of a strange shape, whose name he also doesn't know yet, and he just tries to play with this object. He has no opinion about it and has very little experience of any interaction with it. The same goes for most events, anything that happens in the world of adults. When you were a child, things were just happening around you, and you were just an observer of the world. And even the world itself was not separated into external and internal as it is now. Back then, in your perception, it was just one world. The infant's world is one, and it's emotionally one with its parents. Everything they experience, the child perceives as his own feelings and part of himself too. This is why the relationship between your parents at your early age is of great importance. Those emotions and feelings that were experienced then form the basis of your personal source. When we see a chair, our brain tells us in fractions of a second what is its purpose, its color, shape, durability, what is it made of, and we also have names for all these properties in our minds. But in addition to physical properties of the object, we also have our own opinion about it. This opinion was formed by our culture and experience in life. We will feel envy for expensive and beautiful furniture and fear for a tortured chair from the Middle Ages, because we are wired to have a certain attitude towards them. As we progress in life, we color the world around us with emotions and concepts based on all the many parameters of all the things in the world, thus giving meaning to this world and fuel to our minds. The complex conceptual world that we have created with our own minds is a burden to us, but we cannot get rid of it by conventional methods. That would mean losing everything we have. Why? Because this worldview is a part of our personality and everything we care about. But unconsciously, every person, if there were no traumas in their early childhood, still dream about merging again with the source and finding themselves in that heavenly space where there are only the feelings experienced by a small child in moments of peace, bliss, tranquility, totality. Sometimes we dream of this world. It may manifest itself in hallucinations or psychedelic visions. The source is perceived as a dimension of infinite peace, understanding and tranquility, like some abstract world filled with sunlight, love and warmth. Visions may include fantastical views, such as the Garden of Eden, as well as real memories of our early childhood mixed with the fruits of our own fantasies. Keep in mind that at this age, the world of imagination and the real world are one and the same. At an older age, the child begins to ask his parents about the world around him, and they give him information about how to perceive it in a proper way. This process has a great inner meaning for the human being, so later it expresses itself in certain fantasies, and the collective fantasy forms the very myth of creation. All the peoples of the world, when they tell such mythological stories, tell about the times when a child begins to perceive the world and makes his first steps in comprehending it. One contemplates a divine couple creating the world, or a stern godfather creating it in 7 days, or a divine mother giving birth to all things. As you might guess, all these higher beings are symbolical parents. They explain the conceptual world to the child as if taking part in the process of creating the world, the particular world of a particular person. That's why the archetypal images of parents are connected with the source. The subconscious search for God or higher powers is the search for those almighty parents from the times of creation. And the forming mind is perceived by the child as an external object with which he later identifies as he grows up. In mythological creation stories, various objects are used to symbolize the world and being itself as a separate object in the myths of nothingness. And this object is the forming mind I mentioned earlier. For instance, the Finnish epos Kalevala tells us about the air goddess Ilmatar creating the world. A duck flies to her lap and it lays 7 eggs there, so the earth, sky, and the mountains emerge from them. The symbolism here is obvious. The lake-rich lands of Finland are home to many ducks, and the egg, the thing that gives life to ducks, and therefore also to Finnish duck hunters, is perceived as a sacred object. After all, if a duck has an egg, why can't the world itself have one? The world may arise unintentionally. For example, the Niv people in northern Russia have the belief of the world coming from a torn coat, the high deity Toret, when coming down the mountain, which might be quite similar to the tales of a father in the presence of a sleeping child who's dreaming about the beginning of time. The world may not come to existence for the first time and may have elements of a past world with a fixed or renewed appearance. The ancient Aztecs believed in the idea of 4 suns. This is what they called the worlds they believed existed before the beginning of our world. They are even depicted on the famous sunstone as those square structures next to the center, the face of the god Tonatiuh. Each of these worlds came to an end because of a quarrel between the gods and humans, which led to the destruction of the latter. Then the gods would recreate the humans and a new world would emerge. According to Aztec myths, we are now living under the fifth sun. Our world has elements of past worlds, left over from their destruction. For example, monkeys were once humans from the second world. They fell into pride, became greedy, and stopped sacrificing to the gods, so they were turned into animals by the god Tezcatlipoca. Death and life, decline and rebirth are strongly interconnected in such myths. Ragnarok, the end of the world for the ancient Scandinavians, ends with the death of gods and men and a great battle which sinks the earth itself into the sea and splits the heavens. But a new world will arise from the remnants of the old world, and it will be populated by the surviving humans and gods. The experience of non-existence that we remember when we were in the source, we project into the future, specifically into the concept of death and the afterlife. All religions say that world before creation was perfect, and sometimes even like a paradise. But they also say the world could come that way again if people follow some kind of divine law. The experience of prayer and meditation, although they influence the human psyche differently, are meant to give a person a small part of the sacred experience, the experience of immersion into paradise. During and after prayer, a person is filled with content, sense of unity with God and his community, understanding of something important and inexpressible. Meditation also leads to such feelings, adding to it the sense of lightness and spontaneity of everything going on, the disidentification with one's own self, and attaining a higher state of consciousness. One of the important feelings that indicates connection with the source at this moment is a sense of inner renewal. A person's mind is renewed and cleansed of inner impurities, and it feels as if the world around is being renewed as well. Remember the myths about the renewed world after the old one is gone? Disidentification with the self is also a return to the original state of your own perception of the world from childhood. The source archetype is one of the most important in human life and the entire civilization. By addressing it, a person or an entire community recovers from severe psychological shocks. This is because prolonged stress, trauma from the past, and unexpected and unpleasant blows of fate can break down people, sow doubt, and create a sense of separation from the community and the world in general. The source, on the other hand, brings one to inner integrity and works much like rebooting the system in a computer or restoring factory settings in some devices. Once you find something that gives you the source energy, you unconsciously come back to your original state, which was once perfect in you. By the original state, I don't mean your personality or your beliefs, but rather a refreshment of emotions and a spiritual renewal. Although, of course, such strong experience can also change your view of something and even affect your body physically in a positive way. If you like this video, hit the like button, leave a comment below, share this video and, of course, subscribe to my channel for some new cool videos about archetypal psychology, myths, dreams and all the interesting and mysterious stuff about human mind.